Hello, and welcome to the TrailManners podcast. I'm your host, Eric Manning, coming to you from the beautiful trails in Ogden, Utah, but connecting you to wherever trail, ultra, and mountain running takes us. We'll bring trail running to life with amazing athletes, discuss the latest topics, epic journeys, and get you stoked for your next trail adventure. We're sharing the moments that make life special, because even a rough day on the trail beats a good day indoors, and nothing beats time spent with good friends and great stories. Catch us here weekly for your dose of dirt, vert, and good vibes. So now it's time to top off your water, grab some cheese curds, and join us for this week's podcast, where we take you deep into the heart of our sport. It's go time. Hello and welcome to episode number 146 of the TrailManners podcast. I'm your host, Eric Manning, and today we have Mr. Jim Skaggs with us to talk about his trip over to Nepal on the Annapurna Trail. The TrailManners podcast is produced every week for enjoyment, and show notes are found at TrailManners.com. Come back often, and please feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at TrailManners. And TrailManners would really love your support via our Patreon account at patreon.com/TrailManners. All links are in the show notes. Now let's get after it. All right, welcome back to another edition of the TrailManners podcast. This is our last Tuesday show for 2019. So this is our last guest of the year, and we'll start 2020 new. But first, let's go ahead and do a quick introduction. He's been on the podcast a couple times before. He is no stranger to the microphone, even though he is a strange. We have good friend, just got back from Nepal, Jim Skaggs. How are you?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
I'm doing great. So you just came back. Well, first, congratulations. Jim has been appointed on the Weber Pathways board.
Yay me.
So Jim's kind of my boss now. In a roundabout way.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, got to be nice.
Yep.
So yeah, you just went to Nepal to take part in a trek, if you will, on the Annapurna circuit trail,
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the, where it's at and what it is and everything else.
So the Annapurna Conservation Area is a large area in north-central Nepal. And this particular trek, if you do the whole thing, it's about 165 miles, I think. And it was first opened up to foreigners back in 1977. And every year, tens of thousands of people do this trek. And some do the whole distance, some do part of it. We did about 87 miles of it.
Wow.
Over the course of 9 days. And I have lots of words and I have no words for the experience. It was that awesome.
And so how long has this been on your radar to do?
So it's been on my radar for a couple of years. I know a lady down in Las Vegas that did it with a couple of her girlfriends over Thanksgiving a couple years ago, and she was posting pictures and wrote a blog about it. And I just was looking at that, and it just enthralled me, and I just told myself and my wife, I have to go do that. And the original plan was to do it a year later, but Achilles surgery gets in the way and life in general, and so I planned it for 2 years out, and it finally happened just a couple weeks ago. And
you did go over there with a brother?
Yeah, my brother and one of my nephews, and it was just the three of us, and then we hired a guide as well to go with us.
So for the listeners out there, Jim's an ultra runner. He's got a ton under his belt, but your brother, they're not runners, right?
Well, my brother does triathlons.
Okay.
My nephew surfs 3 days a week in San Diego. But so my brother was in reasonably good shape. My nephew, he did some running, some hiking, just to kind of prep for it. But they both live at sea level.
Okay.
And So it was going to be interesting to see what would happen as we got higher and higher into the Himalayas.
Now, so this, for the listeners, I mean, Jim, like I said, Jim's a runner, but these are what's great about these adventure, and that's why we definitely wanted him on the show, is because there's so much more out there than races and different things. There's these treks, right? Where Jim, your backpack weight average of what?
I was packing probably 32 pounds.
Okay.
And my brother and my nephew were packing roughly the same. And yeah, we could have hired a porter to carry our stuff, but that costs money. And why make some poor guy carry our crap when we can do it just
you're
as well?
Able-bodied. Because he did 9 days, 87 miles. That's about 9.5 miles a day as an average.
Yes.
If that was the case. So a typical day, say, how long were you on the trail from day to day average?
Well, so our mileage depended on where we were, and it ranged from anywhere from around, let's see here, 4.5 miles to our longest day was 14 miles, and we did 2 days of 14 miles. We'd get started about 8:30 in the morning, and we could knock out 8 or 9 miles by around noon. We'd stop at a tea house for lunch, take maybe an hour and a half for lunch, and then we would get back on the trail, and we'd usually finish up somewhere around 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and be done for the day.
So when you're over there, was this typical trekking season? I mean, is this kind of like, is it a peak? Is it an off season?
So this time of year, in that particular area, it's the tail end of the fall trekking season. So there's 2 trekking seasons over there in the Annapurna region, and one of them is in the spring, generally from March, I think, or February till around May, and then the monsoons hit, and in the lowlands you're subject to leeches and other indignities associated with monsoons. And then the fall trekking season generally starts in about September and runs through about the end of November.
So you're right at the tail end then, because you were
Yes.
there during Thanksgiving, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have Thanksgiving over there?
No.
But you were there for Thanksgiving.
Yes.
So no turkeys.
No.
No yak. It was like beans, rice.
I did try yak once and then gave the rest of it to the dog that was hanging out.
There you did?
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
It was like chewing on shoe leather.
Oh, wow.
My nephew got a yak steak on his birthday. We went over the pass on his birthday, and so he celebrated by getting a steak and paid for it for 2 days.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Just didn't sit good.
Did not sit well. It sat there for 2 days. He said.
That's horrible.
I, on the other hand, other than that one taste, was a vegetarian the entire time.
So, I mean, that's a good point. So, when you're trekking now, you talked about you stop at a tea house, you stop overnight, so you don't really need to take, like, bedding, do you? I mean, you kind of, or did you take a sleeping bag?
I did take a sleeping bag, and I took a fleece liner because I knew it was going to be cold, especially as we got higher elevations. However, what I found is I didn't use the sleeping bag at all.
Really?
I did use the fleece liner. The rooms you stay in at a tea house are not heated. They don't believe in heat over there for some reason.
I love it.
Or insulation, for that matter.
Wow.
And so, if the temperature gets cold outside, it's just not a whole lot warmer inside.
Gotcha.
And your bed is usually a 4-inch mattress on a wooden bed. And it's so what I would do is typically just lay out a provided blanket, then I would lay down my fleece liner, and then I would throw a blanket on top of it, and I was toasty warm no matter where we were.
Okay. So you didn't really need the sleeping bag?
No, I didn't. If I was to go do it again, I wouldn't even take a sleeping bag. I'd take my liner, and that's it.
Okay. So you're a very organized person. So how did your trip go according to your plan? Like whether it was trekking so long a day, whether it was time, did it kind of go to schedule?
It did. It did. When we decided to hire a guide, my friend Allie Nagel down in Salt Lake, she had done this same trek, I think, 3 years ago, and she highly recommended a guide, and she highly recommended their guide. So she put me in contact with him, and I told him our dates, and where we wanted to go from here to there. And he came back and gave me a price, and I said, fine, let's do it.
Let's do it.
And that way, I had everything planned out, and I said had a schedule, and okay, we need to go from here to here and here to here on this day and that day and so on and so forth. Once I handed it over to a guide, I just didn't worry about it. I figured he would keep us on task, and he did. And he would tell us, okay, well, today we're going to try and make it to such and such a place. And we generally made it. And he would just, he didn't push us, but he kept us going.
Nice. And did that take some of the, I don't say stress, but maybe concern or questioning out of it so where you could kind of relax and enjoy it more?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't have to worry about finding bus transportation to where we were going to start. I didn't have to worry about finding transportation out. I didn't have to worry about finding a place to sleep every night, because at this time of year, a lot of the tea houses are closed up for the winter.
Oh, wow.
And the people are like animals. They migrate. So at the end of trekking season, they close up shop and they migrate to Kathmandu or Pokhara or someplace warm. And this our guide has done this particular trek. I think he told us around 50 times.
Holy cow.
He had just gotten back from guiding an Irish group.
Oh, wow.
And so he knows everybody.
Yeah.
And so he would just call ahead and make arrangements, and we'd get to place, and he'd say, okay, we're going to stay here. Okay. And that's where we'd stay. And, he took all of the worry and stress out of it.
That's awesome.
Basically.
And you mentioned it a minute ago, the people migrate. What were the people like? I imagine that's why they're there, and they migrate in and out. So they know people are trekking, and this is kind of the thing, like touristy, whatever. How was the experience with the people?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Never had a bad interaction with anybody at all.
Wow.
They were all universally nice and kind and helpful. Taxi drivers tend to be a little more helpful because they want your business. But everywhere we went, we never had a bad experience with people at all.
What about, you mentioned it earlier, since you had a good experience with people, what about the food? What was your dietary stuff like? You said vegetarian. I imagine the food's similar, right? Right.
Well, it was funny. So you go to these tea houses and you look at the menu, and they'll have their logo for their tea house on the front. And you look inside, and the menu's exactly the same at every tea house. Then you turn onto the back page, and it says, menu approved by the Tourism Subcommittee of Manong District.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, there's that.
So it's basically everywhere you stop, they've got the same stuff.
Right, but they all do their own little take on it.
Yeah.
Like the running joke, I guess you could say, when you go trekking in Nepal is Dalbat Power 24-hour. Dalbat is like a national dish in Nepal, and it's we would eat that twice a day. And when you eat Dalbat, it's typically all you can eat. So you'll be powering through this stuff, and they'll come out and say, do you want more rice? Do you want more curry? Do you want more lentils? And whatever. And they'll pile more on your plate until you just tell them, nope, I'm good.
So dalbat is like a meal. It's not necessarily, because you just mentioned curry, rice, and lentils.
Yeah.
Is it mixed together? Is there 3 sections?
You can mix it together.
Okay.
We always had it served to us. You have a plate, and you have a mound of white rice in the middle. And then you have a bowl of some sort of lentil soup. And then you have some sort of curry. It's usually potato-based. And then you have some sort of pickled veggies, usually like radishes a lot of times.
Okay.
And then you have some sort of cooked greens, typically spinach. And those are, placed on the outside of your mound of rice. And then you do whatever you want with it. If you want to mix it all together, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But that's pretty much the basics of dalbat.
Gotcha. And was there other, when you're traveling, did you take anything with you or pick anything up, like between stops, like Snicker bars, granola bars? Did you do any type of that?
Snickers bars on the Annapurna circuit are like the go-to food.
Is it?
Every little store sells Snicker bars. We had brought a bunch with us, and we were hoarding them until we went over the pass, because that's kind of the treat that you do when you go over the Thorong La Pass, is you break out a Snickers bar.
That's kind of the thing, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. But, yeah, you could go, I mean, every little store sells snack foods, whether it's Pringles are huge over there.
Really?
Yeah, cans of Pringles in every store.
Wow.
Never bought a can, but, yeah, every store has Pringles.
What is their pricing like for stuff like a Snicker bar? Is it average of what you would do here?
It depends on where you are.
Okay.
The higher you go in elevation, the more pricey it gets.
So it goes up as you go up.
So when you get up near where it's time to go over the pass, then it might cost you a couple hundred rupees, which is basically $1.75.
Oh, that ain't bad. That's not even vending machine level yet.
Right. And whereas down earlier, maybe it's 100 rupees.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's all, the higher you go, the more expensive things get, because it's harder to get the stuff there.
What did you do about currency? Did you carry their local
yeah.
cash, or did you have a
cash?
Credit
Everything's
card?
in cash.
Okay, so you just have a big wad of, big old, like
Nepali,
a big
old
thick circular
roll
wad with a rubber band.
Nepali rupees.
Nice. They felt like Monopoly money.
Kind of.
This ain't real.
I had a stack of 1,000 rupee notes, and 1,000 rupees. I just thought of it as $10. Wow. Because that's roughly what it is. Yeah. And so I had a stack of those, and we paid our guide in cash. Everything is cash on that route.
Okay.
I've heard there are ATMs.
Wow.
In a couple of the larger towns, but I never looked for them. I never needed them.
Yeah.
So we just made sure that we had plenty of cash going in.
Is that when you finish, you hit the end right before you get to town, you just get a bunch of money and just start flicking it, like letting it rain on everybody, because it's like not real money. That's when I went to Canada the very first time, and I got a bunch of Canadian currency.
Right.
It felt fake to me, because I'd never experienced this. I'm like, does this work?
Yeah.
So I imagine that's
why it took a little bit getting used to the different notes. Yeah. There's no coins.
Okay.
It's all banknotes.
Okay.
And everything from 5 rupee, 10 rupee, 20 rupee, 50, 100, 500, 1,000.
Wow.
And they're all different sizes.
Oh, really? See,
yeah,
I would totally think Monopoly money if that was the case.
Yeah, and all different colors. And it took a few days to get used to it.
I would just end up holding them out. Which ones do you want? Give me that food. You want a Snicker bar? Take one of these back.
Right.
We talked about what you eat. We talked about, you brought it up a few times, so I want to kind of get into that, is the elevation.
Yeah.
So I'm imagining the start. Where did you start from town-wise?
So the town we started at, we took a bus from Kathmandu to Besisahar, and that's typically where you start. And it's a good-sized town. Lots of shops, lots of trekking stores. It's kind of where, if you're doing the full trek, you start in Besisahar. What we did is we got there, and it was a little late to get started in the day, so our guide grabbed a Jeep, and we took a Jeep ride to the little tiny town of Nadi.
Okay.
And that's where we started, and that took us about another half an hour to get to. So we started in the little town of Nadi. It's probably about 2,500 feet elevation.
Wow. Okay.
So subtropics. I mean, there we saw banana trees.
Wow.
Everything's nice and green. As we were walking down the trail, the cicadas are out, and you see birds, and it's pretty lush, even though it's dry season.
Wow.
So we start out there. The next day, we went 12 and a half miles the next day to the town of Chamche. That was a long day. Tons of waterfalls. There is so much water pouring out of those mountains. And of course, we're trekking in a valley with a raging river, and it was low. It's not like it was flooding. It was low.
It was still just ripping.
Yeah, and it's that kind of milky green color that's glacial runoff.
Wow.
So it was really cool. But yeah, lots of waterfalls. People living on the side of mountains was just shocked me, or I shouldn't say shocked me. I really was
awestruck
with that, because you look up this steep hillside and you'll see some houses like 1,000 feet up, 2,000 feet up, and you think, okay, the only way up there is to walk, and you can't see the trail. You don't know where they walk up, you know. And I remember, oh gosh, I don't remember what town it was. I think it was near Tall. We looked up and saw a suspension bridge like 1,000 feet in the air, and apparently it goes to some temple up there. And we didn't go up there to see it, but you know, we would, as we climb in elevation, sometimes we would see these places way up above us, and then eventually we'd end up above them and could look back, and you could look down and see these little hamlets, if you will, rice paddies around and all that, and this is just where they live.
Wow.
You know, so it was pretty incredible.
There's not a lot of trick-or-treaters there going house to house.
Yeah, they probably don't know what Halloween is.
So what you know, talk about elevation. So you started at about 2,500 feet. What did you peak out at? Like, where were you guys elevation-wise? Like, say your top of.
So when you trek Annapurna, the big deal is to go over the Thorong Law Pass. It's supposedly the highest navigable pass in the world, and I use the term navigable loosely because it's nothing but a trail. And that's at 17,762 feet. Wow. So, or 5,416 meters for your international listeners. Yeah, you make.
Holy cow.
We spent, we spent 5 days getting there. And we did take a rest day in the town of Manong, which sits at about 11,000 feet. We just did a day hike that day.
Do you think that helped a little bit, or do you think
I'm
it
sure
was so
did.
early that?
Our guide had us start taking Dimox there at 10,000 feet, 11,000 feet, and so we took it. You take it twice a day, and supposedly it helps stave off altitude sickness. None of us ever got altitude sick, so I assume it worked.
What was it like being up that high, though? I mean, could you feel it? I know it's like not being sick, but I know I think the highest I've been is like Handy's in the San Juans, and I thought I was awesome because I hit, I was like 11, I got probably close to 12, and I'm like, yeah, this ain't that.
Oh, Handy's is over 14.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying I got close to 12. I'm like, oh, that's not bad, but I hit it was like the last maybe 1,000 that I thought I was going to die. Like, that's when the sumo dude was sitting on my chest. Like, it hit me that quick, but I just remember even getting up to Handy's was.
I don't remember. So the little place that you stay before you make the push over the pass is called Thorong Feti, and there's 2 or 3 tea houses there. It's like all the trekkers gather there and spend the night, and then everybody gets up at 4 o'clock the next morning to make the push over the pass. That sits at 14,500 feet. And you don't get good sleep there. You can definitely tell the altitude. Walking on level ground is not an issue. Walking downhill really isn't an issue. The minute you start to go uphill, it's like 4 steps in, you're like, oh my, yeah, here I am. Now throw 30 pounds on your back.
Holy cow.
And so when we got to Thorong Feti, we got there early. That was our short day. We got there, I think we got there around noon. And so we ate lunch, and then we made a day trip up to what they call Thorong High Camp. And that's like halfway up the pass. And that's another place where you can actually spend the night. And it's at over 16,000 feet.
Wow.
And our guide says, no, you never stay at high camp because you'll sleep lousy and it's really cold. And, yeah, we just don't do that. But we did a day hike up there, and the climb up to high camp, think going up Bear Canyon, that steep for... it was about, what was it? It was like a mile up to high camp, but we gained like 1,200 feet.
Wow.
So really, really steep. Well, think going up Malins.
Yeah.
Only think going up Malins at 16,000 feet.
Yeah.
And you have a rough idea of what it was like.
How long did that take?
Without pack, it took us 50 minutes to get up there.
That's not
horrible bad.
No.
The next morning, with 30 pounds on our back, it took an hour 10. We timed it. And, yeah, you get up to high camp, and it's nothing but a moonscape because now you're above anything living. There are no
People
grass.
People are barely living at that altitude.
Something like that. There was actually a garden plot up there. Of course, it's fall, so nothing's growing in it, but they had a fenced-off garden plot up there. I have no idea what they grow.
Huh.
But there are obviously no trees. There are no grasses growing. There's no brush, no low shrubbery, nothing. It's like a moonscape. It's nothing but rocks up there and old snow.
Do you think you would have stayed at high camp without your guide telling you not to do it?
No. Oh, no, I wouldn't have. My original plan was to stay down at Thorong Fetty and make the push over.
When you guys did the day hike there and then came back down to hike it again the next day, was there any anxiety about having to do it again with a pack? Like when you guys were coming, all three of you were coming down, were you guys like, oh, hell, we got to do this tomorrow with 30 pounds?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, and I was just thinking, holy crap, this is going to suck. It's going to suck mightily.
70-minute mile.
Yeah, pretty much.
So there's a lot of stopping. So here's the thing. The only thing I compare it to is when I did handy. So I'm above 13 now. There was three of us at the time. Matt Trappy, there's a couple other people around me, and they had Curtis Thompson. I had poles. I didn't have any poles.
Yeah. So
we'd take 3 or 4 steps and stop.
Uh-huh.
And they were leaning on their poles, and I had nothing. And again, there's nothing to lean on.
Right.
So I just would stand there and try and find some new position to rest in because there's like 5 or 6 steps. They're leaning on poles, and I'm like, I got nothing, man. Because was that kind of like what you guys would take some steps and stop, or you just kind of like motion through slow?
You just go really, really slow, and you have a tendency to stop at the switchback turns. Because it's a handy place to stop.
It's your goal. I can get to the next one. And
what was so anxiety-inducing, I guess, is so we get to Thorong Fetty, and we're at 14,500 feet, and it's been, I wouldn't say a struggle, but it's been hard to get there just because of lack of oxygen.
Are you halfway through at that point, too, of your trek?
Oh, we were about probably 60 miles in.
Okay, so you're getting closer to at least being... But you're tired, though. I mean, you've been out for a
while
while
it's been 60 miles all uphill.
Yeah, okay.
At that point. And so, our guide tells us, okay, 3:30 wake up, we leave at 4. And I'm like, crap. And this is in the afternoon, and the temperature in the afternoon with the sun out was probably not freezing. It was probably in the 20s. And so the next morning, 3:30 rolls around. You're just, oh gosh. And the one thing I did know, sleeping that night. So no bathrooms in the rooms. You have to go out of your room outside and down to another room where there's a hole in the floor.
There's a lot of waterfalls there.
Oh, yeah. But the stars at 14,000 feet are incredible. It's like you can reach out and touch them. It was so cool to see that at 1 in the morning and go out there. Anyway, get up at 3:30 in the morning, go down to the dining room. You grab breakfast along with all the other trekkers that got up at 3:30 in the morning as well. And we hit the trail at 4:30, and it's still dark, and you could look up this steep-ass trail and see all these headlamps in front of you and just think, oh, crap, I have to go up that now with my pack on.
That's when you start selling everything in your pack.
Start just pitching it by the side of the trail.
Right.
No, you just take it as deep a breath as you can, which isn't very deep.
Yeah, I was going to say. Take a deep wheeze.
And you just start going one step at a time. and you just take it slow, and when you need to stop, you stop. And eventually you get up there. And it took us, it's 3.5 miles up to the top of the pass, and it took us 3.5 hours.
Okay.
And our guide says, it'll take us 4 or 5 hours. And I'm like, no, it's not. Because I have that race mentality going on, that trail running.
It's not what Ultra Sign Up told me.
Yeah, my Ultra Sign Up ranking says I should do it like this. But that was one thing I had to really do, is break out of that race mentality, and realize that, when I'm tired, I just stop and take a break and enjoy the scenery and all that. But anyway, it took us 3.5 hours to get to the top. We were able to see the sunrise over the Himalaya mountains from about 16,000 feet, and it was incredible, just incredible. You see glaciers, ice falls on the peaks. I mean, glaciers spilling over a cliff, and you look at the edge of that glacier and it's 50 feet thick.
Holy cow.
Or 100 feet thick, depending on where you are, and you're right up there with it. And it was just incredible. There was a little bit of snow on the trail going up. It was old snow. It had been there who knows how long, a couple weeks maybe. But other than that, it was just like a moonscape, just nothing but rocks.
Wow.
And people slogging forward one step at a time.
Did you find yourself meeting other trekkers?
Yes.
Just based on like pace, and I imagine similar when you get in the same routine.
Yeah. A lot of times, there was one group from Germany. I think it was 3 or 4 of them that spoke pretty good English, and we'd see them at every tea house we stopped at, just about, at least, especially the last several days.
Yeah.
And so we got to know them a little bit, and would chat with them in the afternoons or evenings when we'd all be in the dining room, eating dinner or whatever. Super nice people. We met people from Germany, England, Israel, Slovenia. Where else? I think we only met some other Americans one time.
Wow.
But most everybody that we met is lots of Chinese. Make the trip over. Most everybody that was trekking is European.
Okay.
It's a little easier to get to Kathmandu from someplace in Europe than it is from Salt Lake City.
Yeah, a little further, a little different trek to get over there.
Right. One lady was complaining about her trip from England taking like 4 hours to Istanbul, and then 6 hours from Istanbul to Kathmandu, and I'm like, okay, I had 4.5 hours to JFK, 12 hours to Doha, and another 4.5 hours to Kathmandu. Psh, I don't feel sorry for
nothing, woman. So when you get to the top of that pass, so is that kind of, like you said, it's the pinnacle part of where you're
at? Sure,
it's
the literal and figurative high point of the trek.
And is it, and I know it's, ups and downs, but it's like when they say it's downhill from here, I mean, at some point you have to know you're basically
It was all
down.
downhill.
Okay.
It was 6,000 feet and 6 miles.
Wow.
It was steep down. And
that's got to take a little while too when you're carrying a pack that size.
It did. And of course that's where my trail running background came in handy, because I'm like, yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
My brother and my nephew were like, this sucks.
Well, yeah, if you're not used to that, it's a quad buster.
It was
anyway.
a definite quad buster.
Yeah.
It was hard on their knees, and I'm like, man, okay. That the day over the pass was finally what made my legs just a hair sore. I felt that one.
After the pass, when you slept that next night, did you stay another, like a rest day, or did you guys keep going?
No, we just kept going.
Yeah,
we got down to the town of Muktanath, and that sits at about 10,000 feet. And, it's amazing how thick the air is at 10,000 feet.
It's abundant. We've got enough here. We don't need any more.
Yeah, and then the next day we made the trek on in. It was our last day into Jomsum, and Jomsum sits at about, I think, around 8,000 feet. So
wow.
It was, back down in kind of territory I'm used to.
Is that the highest point you've ever been?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because before that you'd been, probably
Kings Peak.
Which is, 13?
13.8.
Okay, so then you were up to What was that one?
17.7, almost 17.8.
That's
so
unbelievable.
I mean, we slept. You know, it's funny. We got to Throng Fetty at 14,500, and my nephew, who's from California, says, "Yep, Mount Whitney is our bitch," because we slept higher than Mount Whitney.
Gosh, that's so crazy. I mean, what kind of? I guess I know it's hard to do, but I like to ask these. What were some of the highlights? Like, if you could say there's your 3 top memories from that trip. One maybe at the top of the pass.
The pass is definitely a highlight. I don't know. It was all a highlight.
Yeah.
I remember as we were trekking I think it was the 3rd day, and just we were high up on the side of the valley. The scenery was just spectacular. I mean, we had views of Annapurna 2, Annapurna 3, Gangapurna Peak, Pasang Peak, Manasulu, all these huge, 20 to 26,000 foot peaks with glaciers hanging off of them, and just we're in a pine forest, and we're going through just and I just kept thinking, I can't believe I'm actually here. This is just almost overwhelming. I'm in Nepal.
Well, I mean, I just think, like, when I've gone, the only thing I can come close to is Silverton.
Yeah.
And so when you're in Silverton and you look up and see these massive peaks where you're at, you're like, oh my gosh. But when you get to Handy's, 14,000, you look around and you're kind of on top of everything. Right. I couldn't imagine being at 17,000 and looking up, seeing
20. Well, the peak on either side of that pass, they're both 21,000 foot.
Yeah, I just couldn't
imagine. So another 4,000 feet up.
Being that high and still look up and go, wow.
Yeah.
That would be insane.
Oh, it was. It was incredible. As far as just highlights, I think, well, we had the switchbacks from hell.
Uh-oh.
That was after we left Manang, which sits at 10,000 feet, and then we had to hike up to Garu, which is a 500-year-old village, according to our guide. It's switchbacks, 1,200 feet in a mile.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's another one of those slow grinds. But you get up on top there on this little town clinging to the side of the mountain, and you're eating an apple pie, a small apple pie, and drinking tea. And you look out, and the temperature, it was sunny. It was probably in the 50s. It was just perfect. And you're on this terrace overlooking the valley, and you just think, wow, this is just incredible that I'm here and I can see this. And, you can take all the pictures you want, but they don't do it justice.
Oh, I could imagine. Well, I mean, and when you talk about it, too, at 1,200 feet in a mile, I mean, kind of in your head, like, if you go back to running mode, you're kind of like, oh, yeah. But now you got
that's steep, but I can do that.
Yeah, but now you throw in some altitude and 30-pound pack, and then you're kind of like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Challenge accepted, kind of. Just because I have to at this point.
Yeah, I don't have any way out of this unless I want to medevac out.
That's amazing. And I think you just said it, because we were exchanging some messages, and you think you took over 850 photos.
Something like that.
And if you go through them, I mean, obviously you recognize them, right,
sure,
where you were,
sure.
But it doesn't, I mean, I can see in your head, you look at it and go, oh, gosh, it doesn't quite do it. When you're trying to explain it to Karen or someone that you're talking to, it just doesn't quite explain what you were doing.
I threw the pictures all up on the big screen at home for Karen, and I was still this is 3 days later, 3 days after I get back, I was still so wiped out. I'm going through the pictures, and all of a sudden I just zoned out and fell asleep. Karen's waiting for me to go to the next picture, and then I snapped awake and went, oh, I think I better go to bed.
You were probably thinking about the hike you were on. You're like, I'm getting tired just looking at it.
No, I was just tired.
Well, because on the way back, I mean, total time travel from when you left to get here was what? Total time.
You mean actually traveling or while I was over there?
Traveling. So when you left...
When I left Salt Lake, it took me 28 hours to get there.
And then on the way home?
It took me 34 hours to get home.
And then right when you got home, you went right to work, though, right?
Yeah, I got in. Karen picked me up at, I think, 11 o'clock at night. And I got home and crashed, got up at 5 o'clock the next morning, and just like my life I had never gone.
Wow.
Went out to the barn, feed the horse, clean horse shit up, feed the cats, feed the dogs, feed myself, get ready for work and go to work. And I was pretty much more useless on Monday than I normally am at work. So
Did it tell how long do you think it took before you kind of got back to like?
It was Thursday.
So it was like a few days before you got back to like things were not foggy.
I didn't do as bad on Monday as I thought. I got back Sunday night, so I didn't do as bad on Monday as I thought. Tuesday, I was still a little foggy. Wednesday, I was just, work was okay, but I got home and I think I went to bed at like 7 o'clock, slept until 5 the next morning, and woke up Thursday, I was like, okay, I feel normal now. So, yeah, it took a few days to get over the jet lag.
Man, how did your nephew and brother, how was their experience? Did they just love it too, though?
Yeah, they loved it. Though my brother came into the trek with a pretty nice cold going on, so he was pretty congested.
Yikes.
Which kind of, he was okay until we started to go over the pass, and we got about a mile from the top, and he was moving so slow because he was so congested and just could not breathe that we actually put him on a horse. There are guides with horses stationed every so often on that trek up just for people like that.
Yeah.
And they charge you through the nose.
Oh, well, they can.
Exactly. I mean, and my brother was like, well, how much is it going to cost? And I said, I don't care. Get on the horse.
Yeah.
So this guy put my brother's pack on, put my brother on the horse, and took him a mile to the top.
Wow.
And it was like $80,
Dang.
$75. But I got it. Of course, he beat us up there.
Oh, I'd hope.
And he says, it was totally worth it.
High altitude Uber. That's
all
that.
Yeah, that's what it was. A high altitude Uber.
A 4-legged Uber at high altitude. So I know, like, there's a lot of stuff out there. You know, we've had discussions before. Is that something you think you'll do again?
I would love to do it again. I would go back in a heartbeat.
Would you do anything differently?
Yes.
Like what?
I would lighten my pack.
Yeah.
Because I found out that I didn't really need to carry like 6 pair of underwear and 6 pair of socks. 3 of each would have been fine.
Yeah.
I mean, you can always turn them inside out, wear them for 3 days, and you're fine.
Yeah.
You know, you take a shower every 3 days anyway.
Wow.
I would probably not take a sleeping bag. Let's see, what else? I made notes.
You made notes because you took your fleece and you said that was enough.
That was enough. It really was.
Would it be a smaller pack too, probably then?
Well, I could probably get by with my smaller pack.
Yeah.
I would take fewer clothes. I would not take my big camera because that sucker's heavy.
Yeah.
My nephew he's a photographer for a living. He didn't bring a big camera. He went and bought a point and shoot and took that and took great pictures.
Yeah.
And I would want to do it at a different time of year, just
to see it differently.
To see it differently. You know, I've heard in the spring they have rhododendron forests over there, and I've heard that in the spring those bloom and it's beautiful. Our guide was saying if you come in September after the monsoons, everything's green. I mean, when we got up, 8, 9, 10,000 feet, the trees are like they are around here. They're bare of leaves.
Okay.
So everything was kind of brown and drab. I would take longer and do fewer miles each day.
Okay.
I don't want to have to crank out 12 miles a day, 14 miles a day. I'd rather do half that distance and be done by noon, and then you can relax or go maybe explore a side trail or wander through the town. Our day off in Manong, we did a day hike, and we also had time to where we went over to the old city, the old part of the city, and just wandered the back alleys and you just down these little warrens and such, just to see what was there.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting to do. I would also, because we're a little bit of time crunched, we spent a lot of time. So there's a road that goes all the way up to the town of Manong. And we spent a lot of time on that road. And we could see the original trail like across the valley on the other side of the river. I would want to take that instead. I would want to get off the road and more on the original trail. And it, obviously you're going to be slower, but yeah. I think it'd be more enjoyable.
I mean, because you were probably fit to go over there, so that wasn't an issue. Would you do anything differently with that? Like maybe hike more or here?
I would stick with my current training that I do, which has been non-existent since the bear.
but good enough.
Good enough, yeah.
So, and you mentioned that you covered 87 and it's about 160 something. Would you do the other stuff? I mean, what would you do with that?
I think it would be interesting to do that. As we took our Jeep ride out of Johnson, we did pass trekkers on the road. And as we got further and further down in elevation, we could see the trekking trail on the, where you would go. And I would want to do some exploring over there. There's a ton of treks that you can do in Nepal. I mean, the two famous ones are the Annupurna Circuit and Everest Base Camp. I really don't care whether I would do Everest Base Camp or not, but there's a lot of other places to trek over there, and I think it'd be interesting to do some more.
So break it down, like not the high expensive Uber or maybe some odds and ends, but if you had to put a price tag on your travel, your guide,
everything.
I mean, if you had to put a price tag on it for people out there to get an idea of what something like that would be,
well under $3,000 from Salt Lake City.
Wow!
And half of that's the price of your plane ticket.
So it depends on when you go, I'm assuming, and what kind of deal you get on.
It's actually cheaper to get to Kathmandu than it is to get to Paris.
Really?
Yeah.
Wonder why. People don't go there, so they need people to go there, or what?
Apparently, I don't know.
I just like the name of Kathmandu. Like I would, like an I Heart Kathmandu shirt would be kind of cool. You just don't see those.
Yeah, Kathmandu is a crap hole of a city. It really is. I mean, it's an interesting place. The pollution there is horrible. I mean, it makes our inversions here nothing. It really does. I mean, the traffic is horrible. There's no stoplights are non-existent. I mean, I actually never saw a stoplight. Everything's roundabouts.
It's like a free-for-all roundabout. They don't have, like, lanes, do they? I've seen some stuff.
Yeah, there's lane markings.
It's recommendations, kind of?
Yeah, they're mild recommendations at best.
We had extra paint. We put it here.
Right. Crosswalks, there's crosswalks. There's no crosswalk signs. There's no one to stop you. My brother and I went for a walk out in Kathmandu. We were mainly, when we were in Kathmandu, we stayed in the Tamil district, which is kind of the tourist district. And you stay in there and you're pretty safe, I guess you could say. But we went out because he had to find an Apple store for whatever reason.
An Apple?
Yeah, I think so. So it meant we had to walk a few blocks. And we're looking at a couple of busy streets that we have to cross, and we're like, oh, we're going to die. How do people do this? And finally I had this brilliant idea. I said, okay, we find some locals that look like they're going to cross the street. We hang with them. We hang with them. And that's exactly what we did. And we made it across the streets just fine. And driving there is a totally different attitude. If there's an opening, somebody's going to take it, either a motorcycle, another car, maybe a truck. You're 6 inches off everybody's bumper.
Dang.
All the time. But there is no road rage. No such thing as road rage. Never saw it. Everybody, if you start to cross the street, they'll stop and wait for you. You just don't look at them. Uh-huh. You don't look at the car, because if you make eye contact with the car,
they think
they have it.
Gotcha.
They have the right of way. And so you you basically are just gritting your teeth and ignoring them, hoping that they see you and stop. And they do.
You're bracing for impact.
Right. Yeah.
Just in case.
You are.
Every muscle's tense and you're ready to take this vehicle on.
Yeah, but the thing is I never saw an accident. I never saw a fender bender. I never saw a bent fender. I mean, it's just a total different mindset for driving over there. You put me in a car over there, and either I'm going to die or somebody else is going to die. That's
or you'll
just
see
going
me
to happen.
parked on the side of the road crying.
Yeah, in a fetal position in the car in the driver's seat.
So if you're ever going to go over that, maybe you just play a video game Frogger a lot before you go over, just to get zoned in to get across the road or something.
Well, the thing is they make liberal use of the car horns, and so as we would walk down through Tamil District, which is very narrow streets, but traffic goes down. As you're walking along, if you hear a car horn behind you, just a quick beep, you just kind of ease over a little bit, and they go flying past you.
Oh, man.
And pretty soon, you don't whip your head around and say, oh, gosh, he's going to hit me. You just ease over because that's what you do. And it took about a day to get used to that, and that was it. And after that, you
were programmed at that point.
Exactly. Yeah.
It just took a day of programming is all it was.
But yeah, it was. But Kathmandu is just. Of course, we didn't get out and really explore a lot of it, but really, it's kind of a crap hole of a city in my book.
So did you go over there with more than your backpack?
Nope.
So that was it. So you took everything you had with you the whole time.
Well, I had my adventure pack that I use for adventure runs that I used as a carry-on.
Okay.
So, and then my backpack I had inside a travel duffel, if you will, to kind of protect it from the baggage monkeys. And the hotel we stayed at our first night in Kathmandu, we just left it there in storage.
Okay.
And so when we got back to Kathmandu, we stayed there another night before we headed out. But yeah, they just put it in the storeroom, give you a baggage check, and
so you started there, you ended somewhere else, and just traveled back there via plane.
Right. So we finished our trek in the town of Jomsom. We were supposed to fly out. The thing with Jomsom is it sits in the bottom of this valley, and the wind is a constant factor there. As we were hiking into Jomsom, we were coming down this valley, and the winds were somewhere between 20 and 35 miles an hour.
Wow.
Just very strong, constant, always, dust clouds. It's very dry and deserty in that area. So there are 3 flights a day into Jomsom. They are all before 10 a.m. If they don't get in by then, they're not getting out.
Wow.
So the day we were to fly out, we go to the airport terminal, and there's a lot of other people there too trying to fly out. The flight couldn't leave Pokhara because of fog.
Oh, jeez.
So finally one flight left, and they got overhead, and they couldn't land because it was just weather conditions. So that flight turned around, went back. That meant everybody in the terminal had to find either stay another night, or find alternative transportation, bus, Jeep, whatever. Our guide, we left it to him. He found us a Jeep, and we took a 7-hour Jeep ride from hell.
That's after being on the trail for so many days where you're just kind of
7 hours, and I'll bet we didn't go 100 miles.
Oh, my God.
Because it's a 20-minute flight.
Oh, my God. What takes so long? Is it the roads?
It's the roads.
Crowded or just
No,
bad
it's
roads?
just roads, bad roads. That entire road from Jomsom almost to Pokhara is in one big state of construction.
Wow.
And so it's extremely rough. You just can't go fast. Even on the paved sections. So the first 4 hours of that ride were nothing but just Jeep track. Rough
Bouncy,
Jeep track. Yeah. We finally hit some pavement, and the fastest I ever saw the guy's speedometer, I was sitting in the front seat, was like 65 kilometers an hour, which is like 35 miles an hour.
Holy cow.
It's just that bad and took that long, and it's windy. and switchbacks and up and down, and it was it was the cheap ride from hell.
That's no bueno.
To Pokhara. Pokhara is a beautiful town. It sits right on a lake. It's very scenic. We had a nice hotel right next to the lake. It was beautiful there. It was warm too.
Yeah. What?
And then we flew from Pokhara to Kathmandu the next day.
Oh, okay. So you'd fly from there to there.
Yeah,
and then how long were you in Kathmandu before you came home? Like a night?
Just one night, and most of the next day, and then my flight left the next night at like 10 o'clock.
So it's a a short trip, but a long trip, but just a whirlwind. Like you're just always doing something.
There was no downtime.
I can see why not just the jet lag, but you just be kind of exhausted.
I was glad to get home.
Yeah.
Because they always say you recover from vacation by going back to work.
Yeah. What was the first thing you were craving to eat when you got back to the States?
So I got to JFK at like noon, and after 15 hours in the middle seat on a plane.
Oh my God. What do you do? Try and sleep? You don't sleep the whole time.
I tried to sleep. I think I slept maybe a couple hours total. Deadpool, a couple other movies, some TV shows.
Just whatever you could find.
Write in my journal. Just every time the lady sitting next to me on the aisle, she would get up. Man, I was out of there.
Oh yeah.
If nothing else, I was going to stand and go to the bathroom. Just to get up. And that was a long flight.
And then you got to JFK.
So I get to JFK, go through customs, go over to JetBlue, check my bags for my flight back to Salt Lake City, and headed for the food court.
Yeah.
Pizza and a soda.
You just probably hit the spot.
Oh, I did.
Did it mess with your stomach since you hadn't had it for so long? It was kind of like, wait a minute, where's my lentils?
Yeah. No, it was nice to get a couple of slices of pepperoni pizza and shove them in my face.
Did a tear come down? You thought, America, love it here.
It was nice to get back where most everybody speaks English that you can understand.
Yeah.
Not going to lie there. But still, I miss it over there.
Yeah.
It was a unique experience.
What would you, if you could go not there, because I know, again, having discussions, see, is there another place on your radar that seems like a place you would like to do if you could do it next?
I've seen a couple of people that I'm friends with, like on Facebook and Instagram. They're down in Chile doing Torres del Paine.
Okay.
The national park. There's a pretty good trek down there, or a series of treks you can do, and that's what they're doing. That looks interesting. I wouldn't mind. So a lady I used to work with, her and her husband have gone over to Spain and
the Camino.
The Camino.
Yeah.
And they've done that, and what I like about that is they trek, and every night they're in like a Airbnb.
Yeah.
So, and their luggage gets forwarded.
That's
they take
awesome.
a day pack.
That's awesome.
And that looks like that would be interesting, just because it would be different. I liken this trek in Nepal to basically indoor backpacking, in that we didn't have to take a tent, but we were still kind of roughing it.
Yeah. Is this your first trek though?
Yeah.
I mean, so
yeah.
Do you like them now? Is that you look at it and go, I could totally do this?
I could totally do that for every vacation.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not one to just want to go sit
I'm not either.
on a beach or by a pool and drink umbrella drinks.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I think
although they're kind of nice, but maybe at the end of the trek.
That's what I was going to say. If you did something pretty iconic and then at the end you could do that, I would be all for that.
Yeah, I would. One of the things I would do after that trek is I wish I had a couple more days in Pokhara, because it is pretty. There are things to do around there. You can rent a mountain bike and go up into the hills. They have mountain biking trails. You can rent rowboats and go out on the lake, and the shopping there, and it's just a little more refined, if you will.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I think that would be actually really good instead of, oh my God, like I said, I can't imagine finishing that and then having a 7-hour Jeep ride. I would can I just walk? I'll just follow you guys.
Right. Yeah. Well, It might have been as fast.
I know. It's like, I know you might be moving faster, but I'll catch you when you stop. Right?
Yeah.
Or it tips
Yeah.
over. One of the two.
Right.
That just sounds that little painstaking.
Yep.
Just to recap, I mean, we talked about that, but since you've been back, you just got some work done on your Achilles, so you're kind of out of commission.
For the moment.
You got an injection.
Yeah, I had a couple of tears in the left Achilles, not my right one. My right one's the one that I got operated on a couple of years ago. That sucker's bulletproof. Not worried about that. But the left one had a couple of tears. They weren't healing up. My sports doc said, okay, when you get back from Nepal, come in. We'll give you a PRP injection. And for those of you that don't know, that's a platelet-rich plasma injection. They take your blood, they spin it down, take the platelets, shove a needle into the tendon, and inject it. Oh, that hurt. He shoved that needle in, and I felt it going in, and that was like, okay, that stings a little bit. And he says, okay, your Achilles is going to feel like it's going to explode.
Oh, my God.
And all of a sudden it was like, holy crap, yes, it does.
Oh, I couldn't do that.
I put dents into the sheet metal from gripping it so hard on the table.
It's like, this must be where people do this.
Yeah, I could feel previous finger marks.
Oh.
Yeah, it hurt. But the good thing is he was only in there for a couple minutes. It was really painful for the rest of the day. Now it's a week later. It still hurts a little bit, but I'm walking fairly normal. And
how long do you have to? Much longer are you out for?
Running wise, I'm out for another 4 to 5 weeks. But I can walk.
Yeah.
I can get back in the weight room as long as I'm not doing anything like
explosive or
bouncy, like stay off the treadmill. I can even do squats and such if I want, although I'll probably hold off another week or two on that.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
But, I can get back in the gym. In fact, the doc recommends it. He recommends stressing that Achilles once 2-3 weeks have gone by. He says studies are showing that helps with the healing process. So we'll see. He says with this kind of injection, he's done it a lot. He says about 80% success rate.
Well, that's good.
With fixing it. So hopefully that takes care of it. If not, then it's surgery again.
Oh, my God. So well, no, we won't talk about that.
Yeah.
So for 2020 then, what do you got? What have you got planned? What's your thoughts for 2020 for what you want to do? 'Cause I know
you and I are heading down to the Grand Canyon at the end of April.
I'm excited for that. Got my room.
Rim to rim to rim.
Okay.
I haven't done that in a few years,
yeah.
So that'll be fun. I have Bryce Canyon. We're going to go spend some time there in July. And I think you're going to be a part of that too, I hope.
Possibly. It depends on the date.
End of July into like the 1st of August.
Yeah. Depends on the date. I have races.
Okay.
So it depends on the date. I have to relook at the date.
Yeah. So I have that. As far as races go, I'm signed up for a brand new 100 in Wyoming.
Oh, you did sign up for that one?
I did sign up for it. It's the Wyoming Range 100. It's all above 8,000 feet. You go up to 11. I figure that's nothing.
What do you got on that?
Yeah, right.
Give me a Snicker bar. I'll be good.
They give you 48 hours to finish, and I figure at my age I'll probably use a substantial part of it.
Well, it's first year race. Looks pretty hairy.
Yeah, it does. Lots of 2,000 and 3,000 foot climbs.
Joel said to me there's some wolves that are known to inhabit some of those areas, is what he told me. So I'm going to go with that. There's some bears.
Yeah, there's probably bears. There's probably wolves.
I looked at that.
I don't worry about it.
Yeah.
If I get eaten, I get eaten. I don't care.
Yeah, that's true.
And then I'm signed up. What's the other? Oh, I signed up for Hennepin 100 back in Illinois.
Oh, yeah.
In mid-October.
Wow. So some different stuff. So you've done that one before, right?
Nope, I never
have.
Okay,
so you've never done that
I've
one.
Wanted to.
Obviously, you haven't done the Wyoming one because it's its first year.
I'm resisting the urge to sign up for Wasatch.
Because you've done 10.
I've got 10 finishes, 13 starts.
You don't need that one anymore.
Yeah, no. I mean, if somebody runs it, and I could probably be persuaded to pace somebody, provided they're slow enough.
Yeah, you don't need to do that one.
But yeah, Hennepin 100 because I want a Western States qualifier, and that's a Western States qualifier. That's it for right now. Oh, I'll go do Temp Trail Marathon again.
I know. I want
that's
to
my
do
go-to.
that one. Yeah, I want to do. I just saw some stuff that's opened up.
Yeah.
I want to do that one for sure this year.
So always do that one. There's a couple little shorter ones I'll probably do. This one down by Tuella that I've done the last couple of years.
That's right.
It's kind of fun.
It's like a hat. You did that. You've done.
Yeah,
that was
it's
your
like
first
a
race
25K.
back. Yeah, okay. I remember that one.
What else? I was thinking about Salt Flats, but that's the same weekend as we're doing Grand Canyon, so.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah,
you can't go out to that death march.
Yeah, I had a good time out there this year.
That's good. That's good.
It was a reasonably quick 50-miler for me. So.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's a fantastic race. It's a cool area. I know it's
It is.
a people's wheelhouse. I don't mean anything bad by it. It's just not my cup of tea personally.
Yeah, if you don't like vert, that's the race to do.
Yeah, if you like just to be flat.
If you like barren desert landscapes, which I happen to like.
Yeah.
It's definitely
in the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere. If you like races where you're running by yourself for hours on end, that's the place to go. And I like that kind of thing.
I just remember when I paced you, and all that kept coming through my mind, and this is bad, so I hope it doesn't come back to bite me someday, but I always thought, this is the best place to hide a body. There's nobody coming out here for any reason at all.
Nope, that's true.
At all. And there's a vast area.
There's a large area to hide bodies
huge
out
graveyard out there. That's all I remember. I just walking at night going, if I was that guy.
You just pitch him in a ditch and never find him.
Yeah, I don't even know, I'd kick dirt on him either.
Yeah.
You know? No one goes out there once a year for the race. That's it. That's funny. That's good, though. I don't know. That's this trip, just watching your pictures, because one thing that was cool for me on a personal note was you took a bunch of TrailManners stickers over there and slapped them on the tea houses. And before you left, I was sitting there talking to you. I think Karen was there, and I mentioned even putting one on a yak because I thought that'd be funny. And
done.
You did it because I got a picture one day, and I'm like showing that off. I'm like, he actually stuck a sticker on a yak.
On a yak's butt.
On a yak's ass. So
yeah,
that was awesome.
And you have the picture, and you can post it on the.
Oh, I'm going to. Yeah, that was super cool.
I wasn't quite sure how the yak would react.
It didn't look like he
I've
cared.
never been around yaks.
Yeah, it didn't look like he cared.
No, because they just run loose there, and we just walked past it. It was right outside our tea house. So I thought, okay, they look pretty docile. So I threw my pack in my room and grabbed a sticker and told my brother, I'm gonna go sticker this yak ass.
I'm gonna go tag
He's like,
this.
Really? I said, yeah. So I went up to it, and I just kind of walked up to it, and it just kind of looked at me and then ignored me. So I peeled it off and just kind of gently pushed it on its ass, and it just kind of looked at me.
It's like, are we friends now? Are you swiping right or left, buddy?
And I didn't know whether it was going to turn around and charge me or kick me or whatever. And so and then I took the picture, and I thought, okay, that's a perfectly good sticker I can put somewhere else. So I reached up slowly and peeled it off his butt.
That's awesome. That
got
was super
stuck
funny.
somewhere else.
My daughter thought that was a riot when I showed her because she's like, "What?" I'm like, "Right." So that was pretty good. But yeah, that's so cool, and I think
I should contest.
Yeah.
So for all of you listeners out there, if anybody goes to Nepal and treks the Annapurna circuit in the next year or so, if you find one of those TrailManners stickers, I want to see a picture of it with you in it, selfie. I'll give you a free race entry.
Wow. I'll give you $50 cash.
Okay, there you go,
top
people.
Of that.
There you go. A race entry and $50 cash.
That's pretty good. And
you got to find, the stickers. I'm not going to tell you where they are.
There's quite a few of them.
There's about half a dozen out there. And, you've got to take a picture of the sticker with you in it sometime in the next year.
And you get it $50. And Jim's races, he does, we'll add that in there because I wanted to throw that plug in. Because coming up, the next race, we have the Antelope Island 25K, which is in March. And then 2 weeks later is the 50K, the 50-mile, and the 100-mile. And then following that up in June is Logan Peak.
Yep.
And following that up in August is Harriman. So plenty of races to still sign up for. Yep. You have to come out to Antelope Island, though, in March because that's just a fun time.
Yeah.
So that's the kickoff.
That's the
really
spring running party.
And that's what they are. So plenty of time to register for those, but get on that. Those make great Christmas gifts.
Yep, and you do not have to sign up for the race to buy the gift entry. You can just go onto the store on the registration page and buy it, and just let me know the information when you do, and I'll get them set up.
So that's
wherever
like
you buy it for.
Super good gift, and it's all like 25K. Is, again, I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. That was my first ever trail race of my life. Was the first year Buffalo Run 25K. Perfect distance, especially if you just are trying to get into trail running, and then you just go all the way up to 100 mile. So make sure you look for that for Christmas, and all the other races on the calendar. Logan Peak I've done multiple times. Such a great course. Hopefully you moved it this year for snow purposes, right?
Yeah, I moved it a week later.
Okay, because last year was the snow situation because we're in Utah. And also I haven't run the race, but Harriman went up there. Such a cool area.
Oh, it is.
Gorgeous. Yeah, such a cool area because I got the opportunity to run around that doing some scouting with you in a group one time as well. So take a look at that. But if you are doing stuff like the Annapurna, if you're doing cool stuff, let me know. I'd love to chat with you, see what you got on your schedule for 2020. I'm super excited for 2020. This is, like I said, the last interview we will do for 2019. You'll hear from Jim again. Well, I'm sure we'll have him on again even as a guest host as we make the rounds through 2020. But yeah, thanks for coming on.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll post a few photos for you, so make sure you take a look at that. He sent over a few that we can post to get an idea, not the full taste, but just an idea of what Jim experienced over in Nepal.
All I can say is if you're thinking about doing that, do it. And do it in the next few years because it's going to change.
Change in what way?
Well, you're going to see that road finished.
Okay.
So that's going to bring more traffic, more people and such into the area. I'm not going to say whether it's going to change for better or worse.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it will improve people's lives that live there, but it will change. It'll be different. And so go. Don't put it off. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop me a line and ask, and I'll be happy to share what I learned and what I would do differently, what I would do the same, and so on and so forth.
Cool.
So,
well, that's huge because I know that's the type of person I am. I like to know what other people's experiences are,
right?
So I know what to expect.
Exactly.
I mean, you're not reinventing the wheel, so if someone's offering advice,
take them up on it.
I'm always over that,
Yep.
Especially with the similar background of being a runner going into a trek, because it's just a different approach, as you mentioned.
Yes.
It's that mindset. It's like, I'm here to enjoy it. I'm not here to be first up the mountain. I'm here to do whatever. And also the packing part. What do I take? I'm not taking gels. I'm not taking this. This is, real stuff. So take him up on that, folks. Again, thanks, Jim, for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
I am off to Disneyland, so a little bit different trek with $100 Snicker bars, but the same thing. But again, everybody, I can't tell you how much I appreciate all the support once we're back here on the air. This was the last interview for 2019, but look for 2020. We got a lot of great guests on, some new fun stuff with the TrailManners podcast. For Jim Skaggs, I'm Eric Manning. Thanks for listening, and have a great year. Thank you for listening to the TrailManners podcast. I'd like to thank Jim Skaggs again for closing us out for 2019. I also want to encourage everybody to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at TrailManners, or swing by our website, TrailManners.com. There you can hit us up on the contact page, let you know what you want to see, who you want to hear, or if you would like to be on the show. And besides, I always love hearing from you. And if you wouldn't mind taking a minute to leave us a rating or review on iTunes or Facebook, I would greatly appreciate that. And lastly, TrailManners would love your support via our Patreon account to keep us going at patreon.com/TrailManners. Until next time, until 2020, this is Eric Manning reminding you, you don't get what you wish for, you get what you work for. Now go get it.